Neighbours from Outer Space by Francis Lance. Chapter 6. Listen to this, my mother said at breakfast the next morning. 2 nights ago, a truck driver reported seeing a UFO land in the vacant lot at the end of our street. I dropped my spoon into my Choco Rock cereal. The 200th bowlful I'd eaten since Dad created their commercial, and they had sent us a year's supply. Let me see that, I said. Mom handed me the newspaper. Dad reached for his coffee cup and took a sip. We're thinking of using a UFO in the new Bombs Away burger ad I'm working on, he said. You know, aliens come to Earth looking for the perfect burger, that kind of thing. He began telling me about the details, but I wasn't listening. I was too busy reading about the truck driver's description of a whirling globe of lights that had descended right into the field at the end of Lacumber Drive. It's true, I uttered with amazement. I guess deep down I was still wondering if I had hallucinated the aliens, but here was proof, or at least a second opinion. What's true? Mom asked, putting her coffee cup in the dishwasher. I was dying to confess, but something told me Mom and Dad probably wouldn't believe me. This guy really thinks he saw a UFO. She chuckled and shook her head. People can convince themselves of anything. Well, I'm off. I'm doing a radio commercial for Busy Bee Markets at 10, and then I'm recording a Zipsy Cola jingle at 2. Try to spend some time outside today, will you, Russell? Said Dad, grabbing his briefcase. You're so pale. Maybe we should send you to survival camp, Mom suggested as she headed for the door. No, I cried to my feet, jumping to my feet. I'll go outside. I may even walk down to the park and rent some rollerblades. Mom looked at me doubtfully. I had never strapped a pair of rollerblades on in my life. So long, Russell. I'll be back by 4. Have a good day, son, Dad said, following her out the door. After they left, I flopped down on the couch and hit the remote. My favorite Zipsy Cola ad was on, but I couldn't concentrate. I kept thinking about Minivan and his family and wondering what they were doing. For all I knew, they might have already left for X10. The thought gave me a hollow, achy feeling inside. I'd barely known the aliens for 48 hours, but already I'd grown attached to them. I got up and looked out the window at Minivan's house. I was dying to know what was going on there. Finally, I couldn't stand it any longer. I had to find out if they were still around. I thought about walking over and ringing the doorbell, but after the argument we had had last night, I wasn't so sure that they'd be pleased to see me. So I decided to sneak into the bushes and spy on them again. I wasn't in the mood to have another close encounter with that thorn bush, so this time I crawled into the flowering bushes at the side of the house. I lifted my head until my forehead cleared the windowsill and found myself peering into the alien's living room. My heart leapt. Minivan and his parents were there, standing side by side in the middle of the room. Their 24 TVs were on. I looked closer. The aliens were gazing down at something on the floor and jammering away in Zerubiblian. It appeared to be a gray box about the size of a suitcase. Lying on top of it was a computer floppy disk. Motorola picked up a spiral binder from the top of one of the TVs and opened it. Then he knelt down and he held up a wire that was attached to the side of the box. Minivan and Aspen pointed and chattered. Motorola looked down from the box to the floppy disk. Finally, he dropped the box and with a wire, he gave the box a kick. Nothing happened. The aliens threw up their hands and groaned. I shook my head. Motorola wasn't kidding when he said Zerbiblians weren't good with wires and plugs. I mean, these guys were absolute techno morons. And then I realized something. This was my chance to start over with the aliens. Maybe I couldn't give them Captain Spotless, but there was a chance I could make the little gray box do whatever it was meant to do. So with my heart in my throat, I tapped on the window. The aliens turned and saw me. For a moment, nobody moved, and I began to wonder if they were about to zap me to a cinder. Then Minivan's face broke into a wide grin. "Russell!" he cried, rushing over and throwing open the windows. "Awesome news! Dad called X6 and they sent us instructions on how to contact Captain Spotless." "But how?" I asked with astonishment. "We're going to zap him out of the TV set." "Or something like that," Minivan said. "Dad wrote down the instructions." "So you see, we don't need your help," Motorola said in a proud voice. "We are going to ask the captain by ourselves." "Spoken like a true, typical X10 man," Aspen said, walking over to the window. "The truth is, Russell, Motorola has spent the last 2 hours trying to make sense of all the instructions, and all he's got to show for it are paper cuts and a pounding headache." "Just give me a few more minutes," Motorola insisted. "I've almost got it figured out." I was dying to see what was written in that notebook, and what the floppy disk and the gray book. What were the floppy disk and the gray box supposed to do? Could Motorola actually bring Captain Spotless to life? My brain told me it was impossible, but every fiber of my being was wishing and hoping it was true. "I could," I began hesitantly. "That is, I wouldn't mind. I mean, would you like me to, help?" "But I thought you said you didn't know how to contact Captain Spotless," said Motor Oil suspiciously. "I don't," I said, "but I'm pretty good at figuring out instructions. In fact, I'm the only one in my family who can program our VCR. Besides," I added, "I want to meet Captain Spotless as much as you do." "But you told us he wasn't real," Minivan pointed out. "He was lying," Motorola cried. "I knew it." "Well, I was telling the truth," I said, "at least what I thought was the truth. But if the scientists from X6 know a way to bring the captain out of the TV, I want to help. That is, if you'll let me."